2v8 could have been one of the greatest things they've ever done, but now it's awful, and here's why. So we're currently on our 5th iteration of 2v8 in Dead by Daylight, and I still believe that the very first version was its best. It really seems like nobody's a fan of the current version either, because queue times are longer than they've ever been before, the survivor blood point bonus is constantly at 300%, and killers all over the forums are wondering why they'd wait 20 minutes in a queue just to finally get into a match and have all 8 gens pop in 5 minutes, and then watch survivors throw ass at the exit gates. I think the very first iteration of 2v8 was the best, or well, at least better than the version we have now. Behavior's been doing everything in their power to make survivors as overpowered as possible in this game mode just to get them interested in playing it, and it's not working. Like, when you compare it to the first iteration, they've received criminally insane buffs that make them like literally godlike, right? You have infinite pallets, infinite unbreakables, no matter the hook state, by the way, infinite sprint burst on a 20-second cooldown, insta healing, wall hacks, brand new parts, iron will made for this in urban evasion, all base kit, you know, tied to their specific classes or whatever. And that's not even everything, right? So I think they need to make a huge change to the game mode, honestly, like maybe making it 2v6 instead of 2v8, and I guess they could buff survivors if they need it, right? 2 fierce survivors will definitely improve the queue times, unlike replacing them with bots, because survivors just didn't want to play with bots. So even though that should have improved the queue times, so many survivors backed out of 2v8 because of that it didn't help at all, right? So less survivors will mean less people needed overall, and they won't have to deal with bots, so they might actually play 2v6. And then if they get buffed in some way to compensate, they'll be more likely to play. And honestly, I think they should get rid of the class system too, because how insanely overpowered the survivor classes are compared to the killer classes. And I think survivors should probably get their perks too. You know, limit them in some way, like maybe no duplicate perks or something like that. I think survivors would be way more interested if they could actually use their perks and items in 2v8 or 2v6, I guess. And I mean, let's be honest, when we're talking about the class system, which classes are stronger, survivor or killer? Infinite shack pallets or 5% haste when a survivor can't see you? Like, be for real right now. I think killers would really love to be able to use their perks as well. Obviously, like I said, some limitations, because it would be crazy if you had both killers running pain resin jolt or something crazy like that. It'd definitely be frustrating. So maybe, like I said, no duplicate perks. Even then, if they were both running pain resin jolt, it would definitely be more interesting for both sides, because then both sides could use whatever perks or whatever, right? I'd also like to see the killer synergies coming back, because they just got rid of those very interesting and unique ideas for the jank ass boring generic class system, like when you're undetectable when your wraith partner was cloaked, or when you gain a sprint burst when trapper sets his trap near you. I think they were really fun and creative mechanics that added, like, I don't know, identity and strategy to the killers, and now they're like completely gone, replaced by jank, boring, generic, do X faster classes that really suck. On top of all of that, they've made a bunch of terrible balance decisions that completely ruin the game mode, like the comeback mechanic, which is just absolutely stupid. We're punishing killers for spreading hook states and making gens go faster for each survivor they hook, which is incredibly dumb. It heavily encourages and rewards tunneling. Like, why would I ever hook a unique survivor when I could down and rehook the one who just got off hook? Either way, I'm speeding up the gen progress for survivors, so I might as well move a survivor closer to death and gaining control of the match, instead of spreading the hooks out amongst the 8 survivors and speeding them all up, and then ending the game with 12 hooks between the both of us and all 8 gens popped, right? The mechanic literally doesn't do what it's intended to do. It doesn't stop snowballs at all. Not a single blowout has ever been prevented by it, ever. And survivors' comeback mechanic is significantly better than the killers. Like, oh, you got 4 gens popped in 3 minutes? Well, now gens are 20% slower, but it really doesn't mean anything at all when survivors are over here tripling gens with their 8% speed boost, which completely cancels out the slowdown entirely. And then there's the remote hooking system. Don't even get me started on that. That heavily encouraged slugging. It encourages slugging so much that they had to give survivors base kit unbreakable, because instead of spending 1.5 seconds to stomp on a survivor and cage them, now it takes almost 6 seconds to pick up and hook them. In the first iteration, if you ran into a group of survivors, you could down one, immediately cage them, and then get right back into the chase. Slugging wasn't a problem because caging was fast and there was no reason not to do it. And you really had no incentive not to do that, because if you did slug them, you know, they could get picked up. Or you could literally spend 1 second caging and hop right back into the chase. But now if you run into multiple survivors, you have to down as many as humanly possible, because if you stop the hook, it takes 6 seconds, and the survivors you were just chasing will be on the opposite side of the planet by the time you get done hooking. Not to mention the fact that they have flashlights and pallet saves now, so you can't even really hook right away either. You have to kind of be wary, look out, look if a survivor's getting ready for a save or what, down them if you can, and then start hooking people. And you can tell that this clearly encouraged slugging, because after the remote hooking was introduced, like I said, slugging skyrocketed so much that they had to give survivors base kit unbreakable. It was base kit unbreakable just for when you were on death hook, but when they introduced the remote hooking, it became base kit unbreakable for every single hook stage, no matter what, even if you hadn't been hooked at all, because obviously killers are going to slug more if they have to spend 6 entire seconds hooking. And another problem I had with the hooking is that it slows down the game so much. Like, it literally makes it way more tedious than fun. It was nice to be able to just stomp a survivor out, pick right back up and chase very quick, very snappy, very fast paced. And now you have to spend an entire eon hooking survivors, which is really annoying. At the end of the day, I really think 2v8 still has so much potential, but just every change that they've made since the first version has just pushed it like further and further from what really made it fun. I mean, survivors got overloaded with insane buffs, and that still couldn't sell the game mode to them. The killer side got way more tedious, and all the cool mechanics they had got scrapped for a bland, generic class system. I think they did this because they couldn't really keep coming up with cool and unique ideas for each killer, so they're like, what? Let's just make 4 classes and make this shit boring as hell, so that way we don't have to keep coming up with new and unique stuff, right? I think if behavior wants 2v8 to survive, they really need to stop trying to, like, brute force survivors with overpowered abilities to get them interested on it, and start making it fun, like bringing back the perks in items and add-ons, I guess, maybe. I don't know. You could limit them in some way, but just something to make it more interesting. And like I said, drop the survivor count to 6, so that way you don't need 8. It doesn't really need to be perfectly balanced. I just think it needs to be fun. It needs to be something that everybody wants to play. So yeah, that does it for this one. Let me know what you guys think about 2v8. Let me know if you guys like the first version of 2v8 better than the second version. I certainly do. But yeah, that does it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do that good stuff. I'll see you guys on the next one.